Hey guys, welcome back. It's Meg. Today I wanted to talk about how Mistweaver is doing on beta now that we've had about a week of Mythic Plus testing. And I did want to do this video without taking bugs into consideration because I'm under the impression that those will be fixed before launch, but it's honestly really hard to approach it this way since there's so many major bugs that impact potential builds, probably because of missing interactions or entire talents just turning off randomly based on our hero talents. There's a lot happening with bugs that do impact our gameplay, so unfortunately that is something I am considering when I'm testing builds, but overall I'm pretty confident that a lot of the big ones will get fixed before things go live. One of the major issues that we're having right now is Jadefire Teaching's transfer rate is randomly falling off of a cliff whenever we're playing Conduit of the Celestials. All of the Master of Harmony logs have been fine, so most of my testing has been done as Harmony. I also happen to prefer it, but I will do some Conduit testing whenever that bug gets fixed because that does impact our spot healing so significantly. I also wanted to play around with Jade Empowerment, but that is currently transferring full 300% instead of doing the 25% effectiveness on cleave targets. So right now you're getting way more out of your Jade Empowerment than you should be. So I am again going to be waiting to test that one until it is fixed. I do want to start out by saying that I think that Mistweaver itself is in an okay spot gameplay-wise, or it's at least headed in the right direction with Mythic Plus, but healing as a role has changed significantly, and honestly, I think it has changed for the worse. Healing overall feels pretty bad. The last time that we had a similar change made to healing for the pacing of the game was in Dragonflight, where you couldn't really top people up, but the damage intake significantly slowed down, which in retrospect ended up being pretty okay. Now in Midnight so far, the damage intake feels extremely similar to that of the War Within, but with healers now having less access to tools that we had before in dealing with this damage intake. I really feel like I'm trying to deal with very similar damage patterns with less at my disposal. Health bars are still very jumpy, and I feel weaker as a healer across the board, which is intentional, but of course you don't want to feel weak or helpless. Outside of health bar movement, a lot of the issue that I'm having with enjoying healing on beta right now is the removal of healer kicks. People in favor of this change seem to believe that there would be less cast spam, which so far has been completely untrue. There are so many mobs that just spam cast bolts, and there's actually some bosses that do some really hard-hitting spells that need kick. Of course, for trash mobs, we still have access to Sweep and Ring of Peace and Paralysis, but these things cannot be used on bosses. Taking Ick and Crick in Pit of Zaran as an example, even on a 15, it's basically a one-shot if the cast gets off, in addition to the other two clones having a channel that can only be kicked or temporarily interrupted through anti-slow abilities. Even though you can temporarily interrupt those, or you can have maybe one spare kick for the clones, it deals a lot of damage, and not having tools to prevent damage for a significant amount of time feels really terrible. So far, just in these old dungeons, kicks feel just as, if not more important than they have in the War Within, and losing our kick as healers has honestly been just a pain in the ass. Moving over to more of the Mistweaver side of things rather than healing, I have mostly been playing this build. Key parts are Master of Harmony with Straylin's Gift and Emperor's Favor. It is extremely unlikely that Emperor's Favor will go live like this since it's a huge outlier tuning-wise, but if or when this happens, I do worry about our ability to spot heal, since low stacks of Straylin's Gift or Vivify spam is not enough to heal one target through heavy damage intake, especially in dungeons where there's often 2 or 3 players taking significant damage in a short amount of time, like the Blade Rush in Skyreach, or 2 heal absorbs in Pit of Zaran and Seat of the Triumvirate. With Emperor's Favor, it's manageable, but without it, it will be extremely hard to keep players alive through those mechanics. So far, what I like, obviously, Emperor's Favor with Tranquil Tea. It's really hard to ignore how powerful it is, especially when you can control it with Tranquil Tea. Like I just been talking about, being able to instantly top someone out of a big heal absorb or after they took some unkick spells to the face, it has been extremely impactful to have this as a tool. It obviously has a lot of modifiers tied to it, with the 500% on main target through Invigorating Mist with the 150% from Emperor's Favor on top, but the instant cast portion feels fantastic. Hopefully this gets tuned appropriately and we keep the same tool without it being over the top powerful. Spirit Font surprised me, and I like it a lot more than I expected to. There are some Soothing Mist interactions missing, but hopefully those get implemented, as well as bug fixes such as the full health channeling issue. I do think for Apex talents it's appropriately tuned, it feels impactful without totally dominating our gameplay. I do wish that when we had a Spirit Font proc that the Enveloping Mist cast to trigger it would have a reduced cast time to help it feel a little bit more fluid. I will probably never shut up about this, but Life Cocoon being a 3-point node is still criminal, and it needs to have either one or two of these effects either deleted, like Mist of Life, or made baseline, like Chrysalis. I understand there being issue with cooldown reduction through Conduit, and Life Cocoon potentially becoming too strong with Conduit. That's part of why I didn't want the Conduit tier set to be in this next version of the game, but Life Cocoon could also just be removed from the CDR effects and made into a real button, finally. With the mastery changes made to Chi-Ji's Gust of Mist being less effective, it has completely ruined the cooldown. I've been running between 200% to the upper ends of 300, like 370% mastery, just to get Chi-Ji to do absolutely any healing through Gust of Mist. As of right now, Chi-Ji has become a shell of its former self, once again being used as a Chi Cocoon bot and maybe some enveloping mist spread, but it does hardly any healing at all, even when purposefully stacking mastery. And just to mention it one more time, coming back to the Emperor's favorite thing, I do worry for our spot healing if this gets over-nerfed because Shaylan's gift with low stacks without Emperor's favor and Vivify really just do not heal enough to counter the damage that some of these debuffs or boss mechanics put out. Some of the hardest hitting debuffs, of course, could be nerfed, but this is infinitely scaling content we're talking about, so it is still a concern. Outside of some smaller bugs and quality of life changes, I think that these are my major concerns. Of course, we do still have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is a reason to bring a Mistweaver. Currently, we are still lacking that, both for keys and for raid, considering that our toolkit is primarily hinged upon how well our healing is tuned and how necessary HPS is. I would like us to have something that would get us an invite, or at least not a reason to not invite us, for raid or for keys. Just to get us on the same footing as everybody else, we need a real tank external. Life Cocoon either needs to scale off of the target HP, or it needs to have some talents baked into it to increase its power level. Right now, the point allocation that it requires and the power level just do not match up. Mistweaver has still not received our 20% damage buff that all healers received in the first week of beta. We are supposed to be getting it, we just haven't received it yet, but healer damage is still significantly lower than everyone else's damage, so hoping to see that addressed. Across the board, auto attack damage has been buffed, which is technically a buff to Mystic Touch. I cannot say how impactful that is. I don't think it's going to increase the value of Mystic Touch to be higher than another raid buff that another class brings, but I can't really complain because it is technically a buff. But I did actually like a suggestion that I saw on the forums for a type of raid buff that is unique. Given that Monk and Mistweaver is kind of focused around tea, it was the idea that it would be a tea party buff and that it would be a food buff that was just slightly better than the one that you can get through professions. I like this idea. It would incentivize bringing a Mistweaver or a Monk depending on how they decided to implement it, without it just being a copy-paste of a different raid buff, and it also kind of plays into the Pandaren side of things. I believe they have a racial called Culinarian, which is a personal increased food buff, so it kind of all makes sense lore-wise to me. So I know we're not getting a beta build this week because we have American Thanksgiving, but hopefully the week of the 3rd, I believe, is when the next build is due. Hoping to see a lot of bug fixes, hoping to see maybe some reason to bring a Mistweaver to something. I feel like I've been saying this for multiple expansions in a row, but we gotta have something. We gotta have a reason to bring us. I guess overall I'm a little worried for the state of the game, especially from a healer's perspective, but we will just have to wait and see and continue to leave feedback. So I will see you guys in the next video. I hope that this was helpful or informative, and thanks for watching.